Good morning, and welcome to day 25 of our daily reading of Proverbs. So, this is day 25. So, we are obviously on Proverbs chapter 25. Well, welcome all of you. Today is Friday, at least, depending on when you're watching this. For me, today is Friday. And I just want to celebrate those of you that have followed us from the beginning of the week till now. We have shared some very important things all through this week. I think one of my favorite has to be, I don't know, was that yesterday, day before yesterday, when we dealt with the whole concept of discipline. If you missed that one, please go watch it, where we examined the whole idea of discipline from, I think, Proverbs 23. And we're going to take our cue from part of that conversation as we continue this morning. So I want to give you a synoptic overview of Proverbs 25, and then I will give you my unique takeaway. Strangely enough, I seem to find it very, very exciting when I have to talk about this kind of topics, when I have to talk about self-control, when I have to talk about discipline, when I have to talk about emotional management, emotional intelligence, emotional control. For some strange reason, it really seems to tickle my fancy. I guess because it's a major thing that I know that if we get right, everything else will generally fall into place. But let me not get ahead of myself. Proverbs chapter 35. So Proverbs 25 begins a new section in the book of Proverbs, often referred to as the Proverbs of Solomon, compiled by the men of King Hezekiah, who was the king of Judah. This chapter focuses on principles of leadership, right relationships, personal conduct, providing wisdom for rulers and individuals alike. Its sayings are rooted in timeless truths about human behavior, encouraging integrity, self-control, and discernment in all areas of life. There are three key areas of focus in Proverbs 25. 1, it speaks about the role of leadership. 2, it speaks about self-control in speech and action, self-control in speech and actions. And 3, humility and patience. Verses 1 to verse 7 of Proverbs 25 focus on wisdom for kings and leaders. The chapter begins with advice for rulers, particularly the need for leaders to seek out wisdom and exercise discretion. I was with a leader yesterday, and it just blessed my heart the way he was seeking to advance his leadership and gain more wisdom so that he can be a better leader, a better father, a better spouse. That's phenomenal. That is awesome. Because very often what happens is when you experience success, if you're not careful, success begins to deceive you into thinking you have all the answers, even when you don't, even when things are not going right. Instead of seeking help and counsel, you begin to feel like you have all the answers. But this the beginning of Proverbs 25 was encouraging leaders, encouraging kings to seek out wisdom. In these verses, Solomon presents kings as having the task of discovering the truth through careful inquiry and judgment. The proverb also instructs individuals not to exalt themselves before others, advocating for humility. The wisdom here applies both to rulers and anyone seeking to live wisely in positions of authority. Verses 8 to verse 14 speaks about relationships and personal conduct. These verses give practical advice on how to handle disputes, avoid dishonor, and keep one's promises. For instance, verse 11 speaks to the value of timely words. I dealt with that maybe a week or two ago. A word aptly spoken is like apples of gold in settings of silver. And that verse compares a word aptly spoken to apples of gold in sense of silver. The message highlights the power of well-chosen, respectful speech, a theme Solomon tends to return to quite often. Verses 15 to 28 then focuses on self-control. The latter part of the chapter focuses on personal virtues such as patience, self-control, and humility. Verses like 25, 28, which is my verse for the day, compares a person without self-control to a city without walls, emphasizing the vulnerability one faces without discipline and restraint. Here, Solomon links emotional control to personal security, contrasting it with the chaos caused by uncontrolled impulses. You see, Solomon had this understanding. Later on in his life, he forgot it, lost his mind, and got himself. The Bible says that his many wives took his heart away from God. Solomon, who authored this, eventually came to a place where he lacked accountability. He lacked elders around him who could give him counsel. He considered himself too wise to receive wisdom from others. So the humility that he once taught others about, he forgot, because it takes humility to keep learning, particularly when you have become as successful as Solomon had become. And because he lacked humility, he stopped receiving counsel from others. He lost self control, and ultimately, his heart was stolen from the path of God. This is a lesson for us all to learn. Proverbs 25 continues to develop the major themes of the book: wisdom, justice, humility, and personal integrity. The emphasis on humility and patience is particularly noteworthy in its alignment with biblical teachings on God's desire for the humble to be exalted and the importance of controlling one's actions and speech. The chapter connects to the broader biblical idea that wisdom is not just intellectual knowledge, but is deeply tied. Wisdom is deeply tied, let me say it again. True wisdom is deeply tied to moral living, self-restraint, and relational harmony. Godly wisdom is demonstrated through integrity, especially for those in leadership. And this is a key message Solomon imparts in Proverbs chapter 25. My takeaway is in Proverbs 25, verse 28. Let me take you now to my thought. And that scripture says, "He that hath no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls." I want to talk to you then about mastering your emotions again. And if I say this over and over again, I will not have said it often enough. Mastering your emotions is the key to a peaceful life. Let me say it again. Mastering your emotions is the key to a peaceful life. Emotions are a powerful force that shape how we experience life. Anger, fear, frustration, sadness, joy can dominate our responses to life's challenges. However, if left unchecked, emotions can lead us into chaos, much like a city without walls. It can lead us and make us vulnerable to attack and destruction. Solomon in Proverbs 25, verse 28, likens a person who cannot control their emotions to a defenseless city. Without self control, we are left like a defenseless city. We are left wide open to harm. Controlling our emotions is a biblical principle with profound implications for every area of our lives. When we lack emotional discipline, the consequences are often far reaching. Proverbs 25 teaches us that having no rule over one's spirit leads to vulnerability. Just as a city without walls will fall prey to invaders, a person without emotional control is easily overcome by stress, temptation, and conflict. So let's break it down. Emotional spending is one of the key reasons people find themselves in debt. We're about to enter the holiday season, and so many will find themselves under pressure to spend money they do not have, to spend money that they should save. Do you know how many times in January I hear statements like January? Because many people have spent money that they should have kept for the new year, for school fees, for stationery, and this pressure to go on holiday. You do not have the money to be going on holiday. Nobody will die if you do not go. If you can't afford it, you will not buy it. If you have to go into debt to do it, something is wrong with you. Your priorities are warped. You will hear people making statements like, "I just need to spoil myself." You have not earned the right financially to spoil anything. Until you get out of debt, until you are in a place where you are a bit more stable, then you can do that. You hear people saying that they need to do this. You don't need to do anything. Your level of expenditure is revealing your lack of self-control, is revealing your lack of emotional control. You are an emotional spender. Do you know how many people get into debt because they are having a bad day? And so they go and do retail. Let me just continue. I know shots are fired right now. Proverbs 21:20 says that the wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down. Uncontrolled emotions lead to unwise financial decisions, leaving us in financial ruin. I know a parent that was so sad, we couldn't go on holiday this season. Why? Because I need to save the money for stationery next year, for this next year. I said, you are a glorious parent. Say, my kids look sad. Your kids will be fine. What do you mean they look sad? They will be okay. They will be fine. Do not let other people's story become your definition of yours. This is how people get into trouble, where you're trying to keep up appearances, you're trying to keep up with the Joneses. Nobody will die. Nobody. Consider consider how marketing plays on emotions. Advertisements make us feel like we need something. Like we need something we don't, creating an emotional impulse to spend. Without control over these impulses, debt follows and peace is lost. Like a city without walls, financial security then begins to crumble. Let me talk to you about another one. Our emotions heavily influence how we communicate with others, particularly in our relationships with our spouses, with our children, with our friends, with our bosses. Proverbs 15:1 says, a soft answer turns away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. In moments of anger, frustration, or hurt, a lack of control over our emotions can lead to harsh words, which in turn can damage relationships beyond repair. This issue of not being able to control your feelings, I've heard so many couples, they hear that their spouse cheated. The next thing, they go and do what is called revenge cheating. And then they come back into the relationship. And then the relationship is totally destroyed. And then they are saying, but I only did what the person did. Why is mine different? Oh, nonsense. Two wrongs. No matter your justification, two wrongs, and I'm not just talking about the example I've given, two wrongs can never make a right. You see individuals that are believers operating in revenge. Not just revenge cheating, just revenge altogether. So this person did this to me, and so I would do this in return. Listen, the minute you begin to act out in the flesh, God has to take his hands off your case, because in that situation you have chosen that you can address the matter for yourself. You don't need God. We need to manage our emotions. See, in moments of anger, frustration, or hurt, a lack of control over emotions leads to harsh words, which in turn can damage relationships, sometimes beyond repair. Many marriages and relationships with children break down because emotions like anger or frustration are not managed. In contrast, those who practice self control, who pause before speaking or reacting, are able to avoid unnecessary conflict. Let me pause and say this. If you are in a relationship, you're about to get into a relationship, or you were married, and you have not gotten my book, The 12 Laws of Marriage, you are missing out on something. You can get the e-copy, go to our website and download the e-copy, or you can order it and then we will send it through to you. Send us an email to our email address and we will send you the details and order it, or you can show up at our church and buy it in person. Listen, one of the reasons why I'm mentioning this at this juncture is because where I explained how many people have destroyed their relationships. They have scarred their hearts and the hearts of people that they say they love, because they have not learned how to manage their emotions. I've seen people trying to gaslight. You have broken somebody so much because of your inability to control your emotions, your anger, your anger-filled expressions. physical violence. And then when a person decides that they cannot take it anymore, you now want to gaslight them and tell them, you are a Christian, you have to forgive me. I can forgive you, but forgiving you does not mean I will continuously remain in a position for you to abuse and take advantage of me. That's not what forgiveness is. Understand that if we don't manage our emotions, we can permanently, irreversibly damage certain things. But don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Also, learning to manage our emotions can equip us then to still forgive, to still be able to work with an individual to a place where trust can be rebuilt. And so it works both ways. So note this: a momentary lack of emotional control can cause lifelong wounds. Let me give you a final one. And this one I put here because it's a major concern. Lack of emotional control can lead to addictions, whether to substances, entertainment, food, or habits that enslave us. Proverbs 23:21, we looked at that 2 days ago, warns us, for the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty. And when you say poverty, not just financial poverty, but lifestyle poverty, quality of life poverty. Many addictions begin as a way to cope with emotional stress or to find pleasure during difficult times. A lack of control over our own emotions leads us to seek temporary solutions that often bring more destruction in the long term. That often bring more destruction in the long term. Addictions enslave us, and without emotional control, they become nearly impossible to overcome. People seek comfort in substances or in habits, but ultimately, these addictive behaviors leave us trapped and further broken down like a city without walls. Emotional control or lack thereof, let me put it this way: when we are ruled by our emotions, we live in constant reaction to circumstances. Do you understand how that is slavery? That is slavery. Proverbs 14:29 says, he that is slow to wrath is of great understanding, but he that is hasty of spirit exalted foolishness. The roller coaster of unchecked emotions leads to unhappiness. If every negative event in our lives leads to an emotional explosion, then we are constantly in turmoil. Living life led by emotions, whether it's anger, it's envy, it's fear, creates dissatisfaction. Instead of joy, peace, and contentment, we are filled with discontent because we react to everything around us without exercising control or seeking wisdom from God. A person who is a slave to his emotions, hear me, a person who is a slave to his or her emotions is actually a prisoner in their own body. You might be saved, but you ain't free. Let me give you examples in the Bible. Moses, great leader, gave in to his emotional outburst. Consequently, he could not enter into the kingdom. He had done so well. Last minute, he messes up and it cost him the kingdom. I understand that there was a bigger goal that the angel that pronounced that judgment on him did not see. But we know that the excuse that was used to stop him from entering the promised land was the fact that when he was angry with the people, instead of speaking to the rock, he struck the rock. Many of us are striking things that we are supposed to be speaking calmly to. And as a result of that, we are missing our our lands of Canaan. We are missing our destination. We need to deal with our emotional outbursts. Remember Cain and Abel. Cain got so angry with Abel, lost himself, and killed Abel. How many things have we killed in our spaces because we are refusing to control our emotions? I remember a man who was calling me to pray for him that he will be restored and reinstated in his place of work. I had to ask him what happened. When he told me what happened, I said, I hear what you want me to do, but this prayer you want me to pray is unfair. This guy, his boss, yes, his boss was being unfair to him, and was accusing him of something he did not do. His response was to physically assault the boss. What kind of prayer did he want me to pray? Not that he physically assaulted his supervisor. The person he physically assaulted was the owner of the company. And he said I should pray that the guy will reinstate it. What kind of wicked prayer is that? Of course, I did not pray. And he lost his job as he should have. It took him years, and I'm not exaggerating, years, to get something of equal to what he had before. Not even better, equal to what he had before. The Bible says if you sow to the flesh, you will of the flesh reap corruption. It's not like God cannot forgive you. As a matter of fact, God prides himself in the fact that he can show you mercy. But yet, we still find if we still sow to the flesh, before his mercy hits, we might need to suffer the consequences of our actions. All right. There is a guy, some of you might know him, Willink. Is a former Navy SEAL and leadership coach. He emphasizes the value he emphasizes this thought that discipline equals freedom. When I read that, that really resonated with me. He said discipline equals freedom. You will say, but discipline means I'm not taking advantage. I'm having to stop myself. Yes, that means you are truly free. You are not a slave to advertisements. You are not a slave to being baited. You are not a slave to the emotions that you feel on your inside. Now that is true freedom. How do you develop emotional control? Let me mention this as I close. Number one, seek God's wisdom. As Proverbs 25:28 says, we are vulnerable without control over our own spirit. But with God's wisdom and guidance, we can learn to master our emotions. James 1 verse 5 says, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God that giveth to all men liberally. Prayer and scripture are powerful tools for developing control. I don't have the time now to explain how we can use it, but there is a way to use it. Number two, we are taught that we should learn to be slow to speak. James 1:19 gives us the practical step of being quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Before reacting, take a moment to pause and reflect. This moment of pause allows us to act wisely rather than emotionally. Number three, exercise discipline in small things. Building emotional control happens over time and starts with small disciplines. Proverbs 16:32 tells us, he that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that can take a city. Start practicing restraint in small daily situations, and it will grow over time. Let's say you are hungry right now and you say, okay, I'm going to give it another hour before I eat. Not that you can't eat now. The food is there. You can eat now. And your body say, let's eat now. And you say, I know, but I will give it another hour. What's the purpose? You are learning how to say, I'm not a slave to how I feel. The next time your child golds you, your child begins to bait you, children can do that to you. Before you give in, learn how to take a few deep breaths and not respond the way you normally would, which is to blow out and to shout and to blah, blah, blah. Practice emotional restraint. Put yourself in a position, right? Or when you find yourself in a position, you are driving in traffic, somebody messes up on the road, and you find yourself about to scream, take a deep breath. And instead, if you're going to scream, scream and declare, God bless you. Your flesh will be angry with you. Your flesh will feel like this is not enough. What's wrong with you? Yes, but your spirit, you are training yourself to yield to your spirit and not to your flesh. Emotional control is a foundational principle for living a peaceful, fruitful life. Like a city without walls, a person who cannot master their emotions is vulnerable to destruction. By seeking God's wisdom, cultivating discipline, and mastering our emotional reactions, we can build strong walls around our hearts, protecting ourselves from the chaos of uncontrolled emotions and living lives that honor God. Let us seek to build emotional resilience, always looking to Christ as our ultimate example of discipline and self control. Today, and from today, practice emotional control. Do not be a slave to your negative emotions. When negative emotions are rising within you, deliberately seek positive emotions. Seek things that will change your mood. Seek environments, people that will change your mood. Do not be a slave to the goadings and to the baitings of your environment. I hope this has helped somebody. Share this information. It will bless, as it has blessed you. Somebody needs to hear this. Somebody needs to be encouraged by this and instructed by this. Let me say this to that individual. I know your spouse has messed up. Look, as long as there is no physical violence is one of the things that I don't stand for. Your spouse has messed up. Forgive. Go for counseling. You can heal again. You can grow again. I just felt I needed to mention that to somebody. Do not just be quick to walk away. You can heal again. We can grow again. There are so many reasons why we should try again. All right, I'm done. Today is Friday, and on Friday, we say it's Giving Friday. If you have been blessed this week or you are blessed by our ministry, I want to encourage you. Our details, financial details are on the screen. I want to encourage you. So give. Many people say, why are you talking about giving as sowing? 1 Corinthians 9 talks about your giving, your financial gift as a seed. Whilst he was talking about financial giving, he says, they that sow sparingly shall reap sparingly. They that sow bountifully shall reap bountifully. So sow bountifully. All right. Few events that are coming up. I think it's next week, right? Don't forget, next week, Thursday, 31st, we have our Parenting 101. I'm encouraging you, join me in this class. We need to work this together. It will really help you. That's the link. Register and let's learn how to raise stronger kids. Stronger kids. Please don't wait till the last minute. All right. When you register, we will send you your manual. We will send you your registration link. You need to register and register now. And then I think on the 2nd of November, we have a financial literacy class that's coming up. We have essay writing for grade 7 to grade 12 also coming up on the same day. We will put the details on the screen. Take advantage of all these opportunities that we are placing before you to make your life a whole lot better. Were you blessed today? Don't forget to like and share this, like and share the stream. Okay? God bless you. Have a wonderful, glorious weekend. If you don't have a church, join me at the City of Zion at our Santin campus. There is always a ready word waiting for you. God bless you. Bye for now.